Good morning, Instagram. Hello to everyone on the conference call. How's it going? I hope you're all feeling really, really great. This is the Spiritual Hacking Conference call, and I am Abraham Calhoun, your spiritual coach for professionals, founder of Peace With. Don't forget that you can head over to our website at www.peacewith.net to see all of our free education opportunities and events and things that we're hosting throughout the week. And feel free to also see us on YouTube at Peace With or on TikTok at peace.with. And I'm very excited about today's call because over the weekend and towards the end of the week, I honestly was starting to succumb to the heaviness of the world and many of the events that are taking place and being caused by humans' inability to see the humanity in the other, has been really, really challenging for me. And I know for many other people, and of course, extremely awful and challenging for the individuals in the world who are experiencing negativity because of man's ego that doesn't seem to disappear. But I do believe that there are ways we can work against that ego that blinds us from seeing the human in the other. And in order to get some inspiration and to make me feel a little bit better, I did some studying from the Tao Te Ching, which is the main work of Taoism written by Lao Tzu, some 3,500 years ago in China, as well as, I'm not 110% sure about that date, so please, I'm going to go and look it up after this. And also was scanning some Zohar, the mystical text of Kabbalah, just to find some inspiration. And today I wanted to I wanted to do this call focused on Taoism and some of the poems that you find in the Tao Te Ching. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with the first one. And what I'm going to do is basically read the poem fully. And then I'm going to go through these poems line by line and really try to pull out the deeper wisdom that we can use in our day-to-day lives. Because when you read these poems on the surface, they're a little bit I don't really fully get it, so going to do some explaining. And I certainly, if you're listening to this after or currently, feel free to write to me and let me know how things resonated with you or if anything stuck out to you that was interesting. So the first one I'm reading is in the Tao Te Ching 56. It's called One Who Knows Does Not Speak. You can see it here. And it goes like this. One who knows does not speak. One who speaks does not know. Close your holes, shut your doors. Soften your sharpness, loosen your knots. Soften your glare, and merge with the everyday. This is called mysteriously attaining oneness. Though you cannot possess it, you are intimate with it, and at the same time distant. Though you cannot possess it, you are benefited by it and harmed by it. You cannot possess it, but are esteemed through it and humbled by it. Therefore, the world values you. So when I read that, it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks for a lot of reasons. And the first two reasons are really because when I look at the first two lines, one who knows does not speak, one who speaks does not know. I love this. It reminds me of being in the meetings in one of my nonprofit jobs that I had, where sometimes people gained leadership positions for the wrong reasons. And they would often monopolize the conversations and the solutions, and yet there were no solutions being put forward. Most of it was blame game on the lower staff. And I find it really interesting. One who knows does not speak, right? This idea of when I really am certain, when I really do know what truth is, I don't feel the need to yell and scream and share it at the top of my lungs and try to convince other people, right? There's no coercion in spirituality, and I've talked about that in the past, but it's like this idea that like when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to truth, when it comes to building peace, you can't coerce people into it. People have to want it for themselves. And in addition, what that means is that people who are bringing peace have to understand that this isn't about changing people's hearts and minds. This is really just about sharing and giving. And so I'm imagining people who, it's this aspect of restriction, right? Restricting, knowing when to speak and knowing when not to speak, versus one who speaks does not know. Someone who is speaking all the time, someone who is throwing hot air out into the room and not actually providing any sort of valuable way of moving forward, that generally is filled with ego. And so I love these first two lines. One who knows does not speak. One who speaks does not know. He then goes on to say, close your holes, shut your doors, soften your sharpness, loosen your knots, soften your glare, and merge with the everyday. To be quite honest, the line, close your holes and shut your doors, it gets lost with me a little bit. But when I start to think about what it potentially could mean, it comes right after these first two lines. One who does not speak knows, and one who speaks does not know. Close your holes, shut your doors. What I'm basically imagining is, instead of close your holes, right? Like close your mouth, like stop talking, and close your doors. I'm almost like imagining like your eyes shutting and like kind of going inward, right? Like one of the best ways to restrict ego is to pause, right? Close your holes, pause, and close your doors, and just take a deep breath. In those moments where we're feeling reactive or we're feeling like we have to prove a point, you may have something really valid to say, and that's okay. Of course, having valid things to say is important, right? I'm not telling you not to have an opinion, but what we are saying here is that maybe there's something deeper going on, and before you spew, check in with your deeper self, right? Are you restricting your ego? Are you finding that ability within you to diminish selfishness, diminish ego in the things that you're about to share? So close your holes, shut your doors is kind of our pause in our reactive moments. When we're feeling reactive, when we're feeling like we're out of control, pause, take a breath, close your eyes, get in touch with yourself, restrict the ego, and start asking what the most proactive thing is you can do. From there, we move on to soften your sharpness, loosen your knots, right? Like, how many of us walk into a meeting already defensive without even knowing what's going on? Thinking about the way that we're showing up. Like, what is our body language? Soften your sharpness, right? Like, also the way we speak. We speak with so much passion and frustration sometimes. How do we minimize the frustration, minimize the anger in our speech, but still speak with that passion, still speak with that care? That's what this reminds me of, is those meetings that might be a little bit tense. You don't have to be so guarded, right? Like, it's okay. Know that we're going to be talking about some challenging things in the room. Let's all just soften up a little bit, right? I love that. And then it goes here, soften your glare and merge with the everyday. This reminds me of like waking up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning and you just feel negativity immediately. It's a trick of the ego. There's something spiritual. We can talk about it one-on-one that's going on metaphysically, but get rid of metaphysics. At the end of the day, we all wake up in the morning and some of us feel groggy, right? And then we go through our lives and our days with this glare, and especially in the wintertime, it's so cold. I mean, this is me, like, it's like that makes us so hard, that closes us off from like what's going on. It's almost like what this first stanza is saying. It's just like a deep surrender to the way things are, and not to show up so defensive. Recognize that there might be some discomfort. Recognize there might be some challenges, but don't meet that with the same energy of challenge and frustration. Meet it with an openness. Meet it with a softness. Meet it with a care. Meet it with an empathy. And so when you're waking up in the morning and you feel that negativity, you feel the stiffness in your glare that's blocking you from really feeling that positivity, take a second to just appreciate whatever there is in that moment that you love and you're appreciative of. And then he says, after we're able to do these things, right? Restrict speech, pause, turn inward, and then soften ourselves to make ourselves less defensive, we are called mysteriously attaining oneness. We start to merge with the now. We start to really experience things for what they are, because we're not so hardened by everything that's going on. And this is really, really important. I think he says, though you cannot possess it, you are intimate with it, and at the same time distant. Right? So yes, it's through doing these spiritual practices, softening ourselves, removing our defenses, restricting ego, restricting speech for the sake of speech, right? And instead being open, being compassionate, being empathetic, right? This is how we attain oneness, but we can't actually attain it all at once, right? It's always fleeting. This is always an evolution. This is always going back and forth. So know that you can't actually possess this at all times. You're constantly having to work at this. This is something we constantly have to work at. Though you cannot possess it, you are benefited by it, right? Even though I can't actually take it for myself all the time, those moments that I am able to achieve mysteriously oneness, to be one with the moment, to not have those defenses, to be restricting my ego in those moments, I am benefiting from it, but we can also be harmed by it. And I think what this is reminding us is that we live in a world where we're not always in control. So we are going to have moments where we're experiencing pain and suffering, but we can still be connected to that softness, that oneness, right? We can still be connected to the spirituality of these things. You cannot possess it, but you are esteemed through it and humbled by it. Therefore, the world values you. And I think finally what he's saying here is that the more we work on this, the more that we actually work on bringing in these practices, restricting ego, softening the heart, softening the glare in the mind, being open, restricting speech for the sake of speech, when we're really actually trying to live our lives by these values on a daily basis, we are going to get that notoriety. We're going to get that credibility, but we're also going to be humbled by it. And it's also going to teach us to be humble in our spaces and in ourselves. And so that is what I have for you today related to this. I did want to leave with one more poem. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just going to read it. This is my message kind of right now to some of the pain and suffering and darkness that's going on in the world. And this is what I want to leave everyone with. So I'm reading again 30 in the Tao Te Ching. If you used the Tao as a principle for ruling. Here we go. If you used the Tao as a principle for ruling, you would not dominate the people by military force. What goes around comes around. Where the general has camped, thorns and brambles grow. In the wake of a great army come years of famine. If you know what you are doing, you will do what is necessary and stop there. Accomplish, but do not boast. Accomplish without show. Accomplish without arrogance. Accomplish without grabbing. Accomplish without forcing. When things flourish, they decline. This is called non-Tao. The non-Tao is short-lived. Thank you so much. I'm Abraham Calhoun, your spiritual coach for professionals, and this has been the Spiritual Hacking Conference Call. You can catch this every morning at Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please give us a like, share, and follow, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube after the call. And it's been wonderful as always. Thank you so much. Peace be with you all.